Welcome to Green Pro. This is just a quick whistle-stop tour if you're a new customer of how to use your online dashboard and then going into projects. We have several videos on the use of projects and all of the features therein. This is just getting started, first time logging in, what you need to do. So first of all, you'll have been sent a username and password by our administration team. If you need to reset your password at any time, then come to the login screen and click on Forgot Your Password. Enter your email address, press send, and it will give you the opportunity to reset that. So if we just log in, what will happen is you'll open up your dashboard. This has previous newsletters in it, your business details, your company logo, a notification center with all of the updates that we've recently done. And also in this menu here, you have all the main sections of the Easy MCS dashboard. So if we go through them, your billing information, that's where you'll find your paid invoices, and also when you're ready to renew after 12 months, you can also pay online within the billing info there. Projects, which we have several videos which cover the use of projects. For this, I'm just going to focus on the quality management system and the records. So if you go into QMS version 11, this is where you find the bulk of the procedures and all of the relevant compliance documentation that you need to have. The forms section also sits in here, which are analog versions of the forms that you will find in projects. Projects pre-populates a lot of the information in your forms, so it's a lot more of an automated process. But if you ever needed just Word versions of the forms to download blank ones, you can find them in the forms section here. So if we go first of all to internal documents, this is where you'll find things such as your master document list, which is a list of all of the documents within the quality management system, which you can download here. Your quality policy, quality manual, company structure, and health and safety statement. These are static documents that don't really change. As you can see, some of these haven't been revised in quite a long time. But what it is basically is just a standard document that you should have as part of a quality management system. When you download it, you'll see that there's a signature box and a date. You can sign and date those, and when you want to, you can upload the signed and dated versions into your records. We won't need to replace the standard ones with signed ones. You can just upload those manually, which I'll show you how to do later. First thing you want to do is download your D03 company structure. Check that we've got the names right, the roles right, whatever you've submitted to us when you set up the quality management system, just make sure that that's all in order. You can also sign and date that and upload that to your records, which I'll go through shortly. And also, depending on your consumer code, I've got both consumer code documents assigned to me, but you'll find various different documents within there. So we have a REC training log, for example, if you're with REC. We have an equality and safeguarding policy if you're with HICE, cancellation log if you're with REC, and complaints policy if you're with HICE. So it all does depend on what consumer code you've chosen. Will show which documents that you've got. But do familiarise yourself with these documents, but don't worry too much about completely knowing them back to front. Just know that they're there, and obviously if your company structure changes at any time, then we will need you to tell us so that we can make those changes for you. We don't make those editable because we don't have various user levels in Easy MCS, so we want to make sure that for security purposes we have control over what gets changed. That includes things like your company structure, your company logo, name, address, contact details. We will require the named person on the account to send us a request to make those changes, and that is purely for security purposes, so someone doesn't come in, change all your details, and you don't know about it. You can nominate people to also make those changes on your behalf. You just have to let us know, and we can add a named contact to your account to be able to allow them to do that. If you go through to the procedures, these are all the procedures for all technologies. You won't have all of these unless you've gone for all technologies. You know, the most common ones obviously are solar PV and battery and heat pumps, but we do also have documents for biomass, solar thermal, wind and micro CHP. These are all your operating procedures. So regardless of whether now or in January when MCS makes some changes, you are going to be required to have basic operating procedures for your company to make sure that you're operating under best practice. So obviously there are a lot here. There won't always be this many, but this is basically just addressing all of what the main sort of MCS and general company criteria should be. So we have technical information procedures, we have design, install, commissioning procedures, purchasing, corrective and preventive action, internal review, complaints procedure, which is very important. and sort of document control, which is just making sure that your documents are up to date. But obviously we do that for you all as part of the service. So as you can see, these all have various previous dates because we keep them updated from a compliance perspective on our side. Whenever we get a note from a certification body, for example, or a consumer code, we will make those changes for you and make sure you always have the most up-to-date compliant documentation. So do familiarise yourself with these procedures. You do not need to know them back to front, but during your assessment, they might ask for certain procedures or processes. Sometimes they're called processes. Just know that any procedure that you need is sat in the procedures section of your online QMS. If we go into forms, obviously you can see all of the forms sat here as well. There's quite a lot. And like I say, these are for all technologies, so you won't probably have this many. But this is a group of generic forms plus technology-specific forms that you will need as part of a proposal package, a handover pack, and also just general health and safety documentation that you need to keep, any agreements you have with subcontractors, for example, and anything sort of on a project-by-project basis that you might need. The majority of this is covered in projects, which is obviously what you will need per project, but there are some static forms in here that will just apply to several projects. At which point you could download, for example, your subcontractor agreement form, get that signed with your subcontractor, add it into your document bank, which is in projects, and then you can just make sure that you're attaching that to every project going forwards. But all of the forms are here. These obviously don't contain any project information. These are completely blank. But when you go into projects and you create a project, that is what will pull through all of the customer details and so on. Anything that project asks for will get populated in the forms at project stage. But for here, these are just for reference purposes and you can download blank versions. The external documents are all the documents that you might have to have access to, whether it's purchasing them or whether they're free of charge. So, for example, the majority of the external documents are the MCS standards for your chosen technologies and any documents referred to within those MCS standards, your consumer code lists, anything that the consumer code requires you to have, which is basically just, making sure you've got links to the relevant documents that they provide. Things like the IET codes of practice for the various technologies, those would need to be purchased. You usually do have to hold a copy of these, so we make sure we give a link to the shop for them to be purchased there for you. And then there are also links. So all of the EX documents are usually links to actual documents. That most of them are free, some of them are not. And then when we get to the L versions, these are all links. So these are links to the planning portal, to the health and safety executive, to various countries. So we have the Scottish Government planning portal for Northern Ireland. Not all of these will be relevant to you, but for example, if you live on a border and you might need the Scottish versions and the English versions, these are all, there and available for you. Obviously, these are for all technologies, so you won't have this many. It looks like a huge list. But basically, if a consumer code or a certification body asks you, do you have access to this document, you will usually find it in this list. If you don't, then just let us know and we can create one for you. Archive is just where we put documents that have been since updated. So you don't need to take anything out of the archive. And then we have your records. Now, your records are the place where you would keep, obviously, records pertaining to your MCS installations and any work that you do under those. So there are 11 in total. Actually, there are 10 in total. We don't have R10. And R01 also will not be available to new customers. It's basically the old version of Projects. So Projects has since replaced what was R01. So if we start with R02, this is your corrective and preventive action record. This is if something goes wrong. So if if something happens during an installation, if a supplier lets you down, if something got missed, then basically you can do corrective and preventive action. We have a procedure for that. We also have a form. And then what you would do here is you would just add new. You'd fill in all the information that it asks for, save it. Once you've saved it, it'll give you the option to upload some documents to it. So as sort of reference. So, you'd have your corrective and preventive action record line, and then you would have a corresponding document that sits with it. Same with purchase orders. So you would go to add new, you'd put in some information. I'm just typing stuff here. I'll put a real word in there. I'm going to say it's raised by me and the date raised is today. If I save that, then you can see uploads appears. So then in the upload, you would be able to add a file or a photo to, so if it's a photo, for example, of a purchase order or a delivery note or something along those lines, you'll be able to add a file, select which section you want it to sit in. So you'd select document or image, choose your file and upload it, and it will then sit in those records. We have records for tool calibration, which you're required to keep for yourselves and for your subcontractors. Internal review, which is one of the ways to demonstrate that you're keeping up to date with compliance, with qualifications and all those kinds of things. We give a procedure and a form for that also. A record for your customer complaints, very important, making sure that you keep a record of complaints and how they were dealt with, how they were resolved. Personal skills and training matrix, also very important. So this is where you would keep qualifications of all of your various engineers. So if you go to add new, you'd put in the person's name. I'm going to put in a consultant's name here. Then you can add various courses. So if I just said solar PV course there, the date of the course was today, the renewal date we'll put as 2025. And then you can just put a solar PV course. If you save that, then you can add a new skill record. So skill record 1 has been saved. So if you wanted to add an additional one, you can add it to James. So you would create the person first and then the skills that relate to that person. You should keep these for both your employed engineers and also any subcontractors that you use that would have relevant skills. Particularly important if your nominated technical person, for example, is a subcontractor. All of their information should be kept here, and it's kept in the same place. You always have access to it. If you need to, you can update it, and it just keeps everything all in one place. We have lists also for approved suppliers and approved subcontractors. And then here we have company documents. So company documents is just a place for you to keep anything that you might need access to or that you would want to keep for the assessor to have a look at during assessment. This is where you would put, for example, your signed quality policy, your signed quality manual, your signed health and safety statement, and your signed company structure from the internal documents that we went through earlier. It's also a really good place to keep copies of your insurance, so your public liability, for example, your professional indemnity, any other insurances that your certification body or your consumer code might require from you. Also a good place if you have certificates and other qualifications, you might want to keep them in here as well. So once you get MCS certified, for example, you might want to put your MCS certificate in there. Basically just an online record storage for you so that it's all in the same place if it relates to MCS work. Now, in the training section here, we do have what's called training assignments. So this is what we give to new customers or new staff for our existing customers who are taking over the MCS job. This video is basically an overview of training assignment 1, which is introduction, but you can download all of these individually. They also get emailed to you as part of the consultancy process, but basically these take you through step by step what you have to prepare for when you want to, for example, do your first project, start adding to your records, and preparing for your assessment. Be a consultant on hand to make sure that all of that is in hand for you. There's also a link directly to Installer Toolkit. If you have not yet registered for Installer Toolkit, there will be a link in one of the emails that we've sent to you. It's not the same platform as Easy MCS. It requires you to register. So you might have, for example, different user details. You might have a different password. Please bear that in mind when you want to log into both of them because they are slightly different. So that's a quick whistle-stop tour of the quality management system and records. Projects is its own completely different set of videos. So if you go back to our YouTube channel, you'll be able to watch all of the projects videos. But if you have any questions at all, then that's what your consultant is there for. You have a 12-month service. Please use it as much as possible. The consultants are on hand to help you and will be happy to help you with whatever you need. Thanks very much.